The CEO of Aeroflot, the largest airline company in Russia, Sergey Alexandrovsky, has proposed that the government regulate the ratio of foreign and domestic aircraft in airline fleets. The introduction of Western sanctions against Russia in 2022 revived the idea of reviving the domestic aviation industry, which had either been almost forgotten or heavily reliant on foreign components. However, this resurgence didn't last long. By this year, there has already been talk of possibly resuming Boeing deliveries to Russia. And although Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov assured that Western aircraft manufacturers would not be able to return to Russia easily, and that the government would try to ensure companies buy Russian-made planes, there is little hope that the situation will resolve in favor of the domestic market. Still, the government issued a directive. By 2030, more than 900 passenger aircraft should be produced domestically to renew airline fleets. The focus is on aircraft being developed by the state corporation Rostec, the SJ-100, L-14-300, MC-21, and Tu-214. The SJ-100 has a negative reputation in Russia due to several air crashes, while the Kazan Aviation Plant is struggling to set up Tu-214 production. Aeroflot itself has a story linked with this plant that's worthy of a movie adaptation. In 2022, officials in Tatarstan announced preparations to sign a contract with Aeroflot. The Kazan plant planned to produce 10 aircraft per year, gradually increasing volumes. Hundreds of billions of rubles were invested in modernizing the plant for this purpose. Aeroflot was supposed to receive 40 Tu-214s by 2030. Once preliminary agreements were reached, changes followed. The manufacturer was asked to reduce the crew cockpit size, which the plant agreed to, followed by around 100 more proposed changes to the passenger cabin. By mid-2023, the contract with Aeroflot still hadn't been signed. A year later, the company wanted to back out of acquiring the Tu-214s. And they did, citing delays in delivery. However, by 2025, the seemingly unachievable Tu-214 production plans were partially salvaged. The country's largest airline signed a firm contract for the delivery of 11 aircraft. The timelines are still being worked out, and there are no concrete details yet. In the 3 years since Kazan's civil aviation revival began, only one Tu-214 has made it to the final assembly shop. Reportedly, Aeroflot won't be receiving that one. Other airlines are waiting for Tu-214s too. In particular, UVT Aero, based in Tatarstan, is actively developing interregional flights. A 210-seat aircraft with a range of 6,500 kilometers would allow it to expand its flight programs. Earlier this year, Tatarstan's Minister of Industry and Trade, Oleg Korobchenko, said the Kazan plant had signed a contract to supply 23 Tu-214s. No timelines were disclosed. Incidentally, this same official promised the Federation Council that production would reach 20 planes per year, but not immediately. That last phrase turned out to be key. There is also an alternative to the Tu-214, also from Rostec, the medium-range MC-21, which seats 211 passengers and has a range of 5,100 kilometers. It is being assembled in Irkutsk, but as reported by IRCD, its mass production is also being delayed. Nevertheless, Aeroflot CEO Alexandrovsky told Kommersant that companies should be required to purchase domestic aircraft and that the government should determine the volume. In his opinion, this would help the state recoup its investments in aircraft manufacturing. Notably, well over 100 billion rubles have already been spent on modernizing the Kazan Aviation Plant, with completion expected in 2026. Other Russian airlines declined to comment on the initiative. However, Kommersant, citing a source, reported that concrete measures to support aircraft manufacturing will be discussed only once it becomes clear how the country can begin to regulate its relations with Western countries. Forcing companies to buy aircraft before serial production begins is considered an unlikely scenario. All of this seems unlikely. Even production of the Superjet 100 in 2024 fell from the planned 20 units to just 7. And if Western companies don't return to the Russian market, it is clear that flight programs will have to be cut until the aviation industry regains its strength, if it can. To achieve that, the country will need to overcome a shortage of skilled personnel, a process that won't be quick, especially if specialists are selected with a critical eye. However, state corporation Rostec has a different take. The corporation believes that foreign aircraft manufacturers, which rapidly left Russia in 2022, are unlikely to return. As of today, no airliners from Boeing, Airbus, or any other foreign companies are being delivered to Russia. Russian airlines are still operating foreign-made aircraft, but their fleets will start being replaced by the domestic MC-21 and Superjet 100 airliners as early as next year. Naturally, it will not be possible to replace all foreign aircraft at once, but their share will gradually decrease. The president of Russia has set a goal. By 2030, at least 50% of aircraft in Russian airline fleets should be domestically produced. In other words, retiring foreign airliners should be replaced with Russian ones, not imported from abroad. As per Rostec representatives, the scenario in which foreign aircraft manufacturers regain access to the Russian market seems fantastical and unpatriotic. Reality has already shown that this path is highly unreliable. Boeing and Airbus made their choice, and in Russian culture, it is not customary to trust traitors. Thus, Russia will aim to fully transition to domestic aircraft. No one claims this task will be easy, but the groundwork has been laid. The airliners have been developed and localized. Now it's up to the aviation industry to deliver. Now, do you think Western planes will again dominate Russian skies if the sanctions are lifted? Let us know in the comments. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.